So in your program materials, in the baggie with the paracord, you're going to have a buckle and an instruction sheet. So I'm going to just kind of show you guys how to do this and let you work on it. So for the instructions here, it says to fuse the two ends together. I'm going to go ahead and cut the fused ends off so that I can fuse them together a little bit easier. Start with fresh edges. And again, I'm going to use my little tabletop torch here, which I can actually set to stay on. So it's going to give me both hands here. To fuse them together like this, I'm going to kind of get both ends melted down. And if you guys, this goes a little bit easier if you have some help if you don't have one of these torches, but get the ends liquid and then hold them together until they cool. I'm going to kind of try to make sure they're straight. You don't want them at an angle to each other. You want this to be in line. So as it cools down here and gets cool enough for me to touch it, I'm going to kind of pinch it a little bit. Be very, very, very careful. This, like I said, this will burn you very badly. So see, I have them fused together now. I'm going to kind of heat this back up a little bit and kind of pinch it together so that it's more uniform and just kind of make it nice and even here. Alright, I'm going to let this cool down a little bit and then we'll get started on the bracelet. Alright, to continue with my bracelet here, I'm going to take my buckle and I'm going to take my two free ends and pass those through. You can pass this, your middle point through too, but since this is fused and it's a little bit bulkier, it's just a little bit easier for me to form the loop by using my two free ends here. So go ahead and pass those through one side of the buckle. It doesn't really matter which. And if your ends are a little bit too bulky because of the plastic at the end being fused, you can cut it off and fuse it again and make it a little smaller. So I'm going to end up with a loop here. I'm going to center the junction point here of my two fusions, and you pass your free ends through that loop. And then tighten it up, kind of keeping it even and keeping any twists out of it. So I have a bit of a twist, so I'm going to twist out my free end in the opposite direction to get that twist out of there. And you want to center that that fusion you did. It's kind of, there you go. Center that fusion on the top here, and pull everything nice and tight. So it should look like this when you're done. See how my fusion juncture here is right on top. Now you have two free ends. Now we need to establish the length of our bracelet. So of course this is going to be a little bit different for everybody depending on the size of your wrist, but take your two free ends again and pass them through the other side of your buckle. Alright. So now that I have my two free ends, I can go ahead and put it on my wrist. I'm going to take my watch off here so you guys can see this a little easier. Now that I have my two free ends, you kind of tighten this down onto your wrist. You don't want it to be super tight, so I'm going to leave about 2 fingers worth of slack here. And then you fold it over here, and that'll establish the length of your buckle. I'm sorry, the length of your bracelet. So sometimes it's helpful to get a parent or get somebody's help with this, but I'm going to bend over my two ends so it makes kind of a crimp so I know where they are. Alternatively here I could mark them with my pen, just a couple little dots here so I know where my length is supposed to be. Then I'm going to go ahead and open my buckle. So you can see now this is my length between my two buckles. And I'm going to go ahead and start my first knot. So hopefully you guys are going to be able to see this. There is diagrams here on your instructions if you have a little trouble seeing this. But I'm going to take my first side, it doesn't matter whether it's the left or the right, and make a 4 here. Make a loop so it looks like the number 4. Then you pass the other end, or your other color will go over the top of the end that you used to make the 4, and then it'll go around the back of your 2 center strands, and then through the loop that you created with your first color. So that's going to be the first knot, and these knots are all the same, so I'm going to show you several of them if you didn't get it on that one. Okay, make sure your length is right and go ahead and tighten that down. So when I go to do this again, you do it on the other side. So it's my blue. I'll give you the spoken instructions here like you're looking at it. So make a loop. This goes in front of your center strands, or on top of, if you're doing it. It's easy to do it laying on a table too. Let's see if maybe you guys can see that a little better. So I made a loop. In this side it's going to look like a number 9 instead of a number 4, but made a loop with my blue one that goes on top of my center strands. Then my red, white, and blue one will go over the top of the blue one here. You guys can see that. And then this one will go underneath the center strands and behind this loop that you created and through it. So over the blue, behind the center strands, and then on this other side it'll go under the blue and through the center. Okay, pull that tight. These first couple of knots might not look like you're doing much, but stay with it. Alright, we're going to go back to the other side now, and you just alternate. Make a loop with my blue. That goes over the top of my center strands. Then I'm going to grab the end of my red, white, and blue. This goes on top of the blue right here, behind the center strands, behind the loop, and through. Tighten everything down. If you get any twists in your paracord, you just twist it in the opposite direction. That'll take the twist out of it. So if we were looking at it from the end on like this, without the center strand, you're actually just making square knots. So this is, you're doing a half hitch at a time, and it's just a variation on a square knot here. So all right, and I'm going to work on this and I'll be right back. I can kind of show you guys just me showing off a little bit, but I've made a lot of these, so once you get really good and you understand the weave and the knot and how it goes, you can really speed up. Now there is other different knots that you can use to make paracord bracelets. There are several great books out that have paracord projects in them. I have a lot of fun with paracord. I make a lot of stuff out of it. You can make survival bracelets. You can get different buckles that have like little fire starters in them. You can, along down my center stream here, I could pack in some like fishing line and some hooks in a little pouch inside of my survival bracelet. So there's a lot of different fun things that you can do. I encourage you guys to look some of those up. There's great stuff online now for different paracord projects. You can make survival grenades, they're called. They're just a big paracord weaving with space in the center that they include a lot of survival supplies. So it's a good activity to get into to keep you guys doing something here during our at-home time. So I'm going to keep working on this, and then we'll be right back. Another thing you guys will notice, since I elected to use the blue as my first color for my first loop, that's going to be what your center color is. So if I wanted the red, white, and blue to be my center color, I would have made the loop with that first. But since I'm making the loop with the blues, that's going to make that the center color, and the red, white, and blue is going to be your outside color. Now, alternatively, on the other side of the bracelet, you can see it's the opposite. So if these buckles are contoured, so they're not going to buckle backwards very easily or very comfortably, but if you want whatever color you want to be your center color, make your loop with that. You know, you're going from right side to left side, you're always making the loop with the same color. So the two colors makes this a little bit easier to demonstrate. So, but yep, that's your center color, is whatever you're making your loop with. Be right back. Alright, so I'm all the way down to the end here now. I have my two loose ends. I'm going to take those and kind of guess about how much I'm going to need there. I'm going to cut off my excess. Again, you know, get your parents' help cutting any of this stuff, or make sure you have their supervision while you're doing it. Alright, so now I got two little tails hanging out here. I'm going to take those and I'm going to tuck them in behind, and I'm going to fuse them together, and that's how you finish it. So I'm going to do that quick. Let me see. I'm actually going to grab a pair of pliers to hold those together so my fingers are out of the way of the heat. Hang on. Alright, so I got my little multi-tool here. I'm going to get my torch going. Alright, I'm going to use these to squeeze my ends together here. Get them lined up with each other. Well, alright, let's go ahead and fuse these. Whew. Alright, well, I cut mine a little short, so if you guys do the same, you can also just fuse the ends independently and just kind of flatten them out so they can't come untied. So let's do it that way. Again, I'm gonna get this end kind of liquid, and using my pliers here so I don't burn my fingers, I'm just gonna kind of flatten that end out. See, now that's the black part there. See how it's nice and big now, so it can't come untied. Let's do the same with the other side. Again, I'm always careful about where my fingers are, just in case this happens to drip, because you only have to do that to me once and I learn. Alright, use my pliers to tap that down. I'm going to heat it up just a little bit, clean it up. There we go. So now my ends are secured like that. Make sure this is cool before I put it on my arm. See if I can get my buckle snapped. And there we go. Put the buckle around the bottom here. I got about 2 fingers I can fit in between, so it's not too tight. Turn that off. We don't need that anymore. And there you go. Now everybody's got their own brand new survival bracelet here for our zombie apocalypse, and you guys can take a lot of pride in doing it yourself. So let me know how they turn out. If you guys want to shoot a picture into that email of what they look like when they're done, that'd be great. I always like seeing everybody's work. And we're going to move on to some tying of some different knots here. So